You know, the thing I like about canoeing is you move at the speed of nature. So when you're in a river, you're moving at the speed of the river.
Yeah.
If you're in a lake, you're not traveling much faster than a duck swimming beside you, or a moose running along the shoreline or whatever. Mm-hmm. And what canoeing does is it slows things down so that you actually become like integrated into the speed of nature.
Welcome to the Wilderness Wavelength Podcast.
Okay, let's get into it. We are live from the Greg Lake Campground tonight. Jamie's here.
Hey.
Back on the show.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Jamie.
It's been a long time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And Darin Zandee's here too. Welcome to the show, Darin.
Thank you.
Darin is our canoe instructor. We did a canoe course today. Part 1. Are we going to pass, Darin? Based on your...
Well, I was telling the rest of the folks here how one of the things I love about those courses is people get in the canoe and they don't know the basic strokes, and they're all new to canoeing, and then you just see their competence growing throughout the day, and by the second day having so much control over their canoe. So I'm happy with the progress I've seen so far, and I really
the wife
love
and I
to
went
see
swimming.
That.
Yeah,
that wasn't.
I was going to ask, even though George and Christina fell out of the canoe.
Yeah, that's
there's a reason I do the competition at the end of the day.
Yeah,
where you go and grab the flag from the canoe, because it often leads to somebody going over, which just goes straight into teaching the canoe rescue.
It was planned. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Me and Christina were talking about it on the drive home, because I'm like, do we get close to grabbing the noodle? She said, no, I didn't even get it. Didn't even touch it. I'm like, oh, man.
I think it looked pretty close, but everything happened so fast that yeah.
How long you been teaching canoeing for?
I've been canoeing my whole life. So, canoeing informally by probably 9 years old, I was starting to instruct my friends.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And taking them out, and then starting to take bigger groups out. And the groups just got bigger into the 300 people range across Canada type thing.
Wow.
So, I think formally for Paddle Canada, through the Paddle Canada canoe program, I think it's been since, it's got to be maybe 20 years now.
Yeah. We had Rick Roback on a few episodes ago, and he was talking about, because you led the canoe, or you got him into the brigade going across Canada?
Yeah.
That was part of it?
Yeah, that's how, when it was the first time that I'd done a big canoe. Yeah. Well, it's actually the first time Canada has done a big canoe brigade like that since 1967. So wow. It was new for many of us. I mean, there's been big canoes around the country. Yeah. Most of them, on sawhorses or in sheds and stuff. They've had a few issues over the years with, people not with the right level of competence, taking younger folks out and bad things happening. So after we did this trip, there was an opportunity to bring that competence back, and partnering with Paddle Canada, we were able to put the program together.
How long was that one again?
The one in 2008, where we retraced David Thompson's paddle strokes from 200 years earlier, was we started in Rocky Mountain House in about 8 inches of snow. We paddled down the North Saskatchewan River. I think we started on maybe it was May 10th or May 14th or something, and we ended up in Thunder Bay in the middle of July, and that was about 3,500 kilometers. Jeez. So we did about 2,000 kilometers downhill and 1,500 kilometers uphill.
Oh yeah, I guess.
It took us 65 days to do the trip, and not everybody who participated was able to take the 2 months off to do that.
That's quite the commitment.
Yeah, so we would invite people from all over the world, and they would come and drop into your canoe for 2 or 3 weeks, and you'd have to get them up to the fitness and skill level, and then they'd take off, and a new fresh, soft crew would come in. And
so there was a lot of training during that process too.
Yeah, like I think on our team, well, there was, like I said, there was 300 people participated overall, but on a typical day, you'd have, maybe 70 people. So with that kind of turnover, you had to become highly efficient on how to onboard people to what was going on.
Yeah.
Maintain the pace and the process, and then get people up to the skill level pretty quickly, because there were some teams that didn't have much turnover, and there's like machines, right? And the point of the brigade was everybody paddling together.
Yeah.
So that's where I really got into this aspect of, for each brigade under the Canadian Voyageur Brigade Society, it's how can I help to bring the teams up to that highest level as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So that you could enjoy it all instead of struggling, lagging behind, or it's just hard on a team when you're so far behind. And so how do you get them all up to that high performance level?
Right.
Would you do something like that again?
I did it for 10 years, and then COVID came.
Yeah.
And the thing with COVID, it just was, I had my full-time job in mining. We were trying to keep the mines going, and we were dealing with the aspects of COVID and stuff. So I pulled away from the big canoe brigades, mainly because just the logistics of COVID and how that...
You got to sit across from each other on the boat and not breathe. There's so many different rules.
But often in the evenings, we would, all be at a community, and the community would be feeding 150 people, right?
Yeah.
So after COVID, I kind of stayed out of organizing those big events and just focused on developing the competency of people, big canoe and tandem canoes.
Yeah. What's the next big trip you got lined up? You going anywhere?
We got a bunch of family transition stuff that we're doing. We're selling our house and buying a new house and blah 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 blah.
In Fort Mac?
No, in Calgary,
okay.
where we live. And so right now, I'd say the next 8 to 16 months is really going to be focused on getting family stuff back to a steady state.
Yeah.
Get moved and stuff. But I've been an explorer my whole life, and that's what I love to do. So that won't last very long, and I'll be off on some other great adventure.
Yeah. You guys have been camping up here for like 8-9 days now. Because was last weekend you did the Voyager in Jarvis too then? Like with those canoes, or?
Yeah, it ended up not going forward. There wasn't enough support people to participate in it.
Yeah.
But this time last year, we were here.
Yeah. That's, it's exciting. I feel like now, even after one day on the canoe, like, Christina's more comfortable about it. She's interested, yeah.
Yeah. There's so many people that just go out with no knowledge whatsoever on the canoe, and that's how accidents happen and that kind of thing. But it's great to have somebody, teaching this and making a difference and showing people how fun it is, really, and teaching them the skills to do that. So amazing.
Yeah. And if you can take away the difficulty of not knowing what to do, like if you can just paddle in an efficient way and there's no people arguing back and forth and people are confused on what to do, what it allows you to do then is focus more on the enjoyment of the adventure, because you can control your canoe in all different kind of situations. You can react to things as they come up, and it just enables you to really maximize the experience instead of focusing on the issues that come when you don't know, how you don't have the competency to do it well, right?
I am curious about it, because Rick had kind of mentioned something about that too, because I was wondering if me and the wife would be even in the same canoe, because he said in the past he's like seen, like, there's been a few spats on the canoe.
My wife and I have been married for 35 years now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we say is that tandem canoeing it's a fantastic place to practice relationship, because it takes trust,
no doubt.
It takes communication, it takes you each need to know what you're both doing at the same time, but then you have your own parts that you're doing, and you're out there together enjoying something, but you're also taking away a personal sense of that experience. So what I say is, and then someday I'm going to write this book, but it's the history of kind of our relationship and canoeing throughout our whole life is making love in a canoe. And maybe not, well, partially what the actual words are, but it's really about how you can use canoeing to build relationships, and build that trust, and then you bring that in with your friends and your children and all of that stuff. It's a great way to really bring people together. And also when you start to bring brigades together, groups of people in remote regions, like and you're relying on 4 other people, because there's 3 canoes and 6 people, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and you got 16 days to get back to civilization. That canoe is kind of like a thing that'll carry through, where you can have those experiences to build those deep relationships and practice, fundamentals of humankind, which is being able to communicate and trust and enjoy things
Paddle
together
faster.
and all of that stuff.
Don't rock the boat so much.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite spot to canoe? Like, we were in the lake today, and that you were in the Wild Hay earlier this week. Like, do you like the whitewater? Do you like the lakes, or?
The thing I like about canoeing is you move at the speed of nature. So when you're a river, you're moving at the speed of the river. If you're in a lake, you're not traveling much faster than a duck swimming beside you, or a moose running along the shoreline, or whatever. And what canoeing does is it slows things down so that you actually become like integrated into the speed of nature.
Wow.
And so what I like about whitewater canoeing is it's a little bit more accelerated and a little more technical, because you got to really communicate so you don't hit that rock or drop off that ledge or stuff. Or it can be a misty morning and you're out paddling on this still lake, and it's just quiet, and the birds are starting to wake up, and you're just out there paddling, and you're barely making a ripple on the water. And so I don't think I have a favorite place or way to canoe. For me, canoeing is a way for me to get into the wilderness and move at the speed of nature.
Wow. When's the book coming out?
Yeah, I was going to say, are you going to write a book, or you got a book going?
A little busy right now. So.
The next 8 to 16 months, you're doing the house stuff, but then the book. What's on the bucket list for rivers? You got one you want to do?
I've paddled, I've lost track of how many kilometers, but paddled in northwest part of Canada. Paddled in Haida Gwaii on the ocean, and the Gulf Islands for 6 days, all the way out to eastern Canada, so it was all across Canada. And each area has something that's unique about it, and a new way to explore and see that part of Canada. So I don't really have anything on the bucket list other than always trying to find new places that I haven't paddled before.
What about overseas canoeing? Is that like a something that you've looked into, or you maybe planning a trip around, or?
So mostly when I go overseas, it's more hiking. Like, we just came back from Nepal. We were up at Mount Everest.
Wow.
And that was
up at Mount Everest?
Not to the top of it, but to the base of it.
Oh, wow.
Base camp.
Base camp.
Wow.
Cool.
So that was a 15-day trek, a loop that stopped by base camp of Everest.
Wow. First time there?
Yeah, first time there.
Cool.
But when I'm in Australia, there's different things that you do while you're there. When you're in New Zealand, a lot of it's hiking or downhill skiing. We're in the Philippines. There was some paddling there, but it's more jungle hiking and stuff like that. So as far as international paddling, I think Canada has this network of rivers that connect you from coast to coast. They were the original highways of Canada. And there's very short portages to go from one drainage system to another. And, you know, thousands and thousands of lakes in Canada. So, you know, I think Canada is places that I'd like to paddle. Canada's the number one.
Checks off the boxes.
It's fantastic.
It's got everything.
Yeah, you can go down to the Milk River and paddle through the Badlands with the hoodoos and the sandstone cliffs. You can, you know, go to Jasper and paddle down the Athabasca with the Rocky Mountains above you. You can paddle through the prairies with all the wildlife, and it's so. And in Ontario, you can even do like lock systems. We've done trips through. You go through all the locks in your canoes that take you from one drainage system to the other. And some of the old ones where they have to like hand crank to open the doors and stuff like that. And the water comes rushing in and you lift up in your canoe. So, you know, I'm biased obviously because, you know, probably 6,000 to 7,000 kilometers of paddling in Canada, but it's got to be one of the best places.
Do you plan all of your trips out when you go, or are you just like, this kind of looks like a cool spot, let's jump in here, and then maybe you run into something that you didn't expect down the road? Or
I always plan for the trips, because
That's
each
important.
trip has got it's going to have different things that you're going to encounter, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for those, and that you're really about optimizing the experience. So you don't want to be in the very north part of Calgary and not have a bug shelter. Like that would be very uncomfortable. Right? So you're paddling the copper mine to the Beaufort Sea in the middle of July. Yeah, you want to have a bug shelter. So you got to do a little bit of research around that. If you don't have the skills to paddle in tides or those big currents that churn around the Gulf Islands, you want to make sure you do some research on that. And you could do the Nahanni River, which is 16 days self-supported. You don't want to run out of food, or you don't want your food to go bad. Or so, you know, I don't think I've ever done a trip where I just show up with a canoe and a couple paddles and a thing and say, I'm going to paddle.
Let's hop in and see what happens.
Paddle for 4 weeks and see what happens.
We want to hear about some uncomfortable situations, though. Like, what's like on the rivers? Just curious, like when you're doing a 16-day trip or a 65-day trip, like what's the most... was there ever a time you were worried? You're like, oh man, we're in trouble here. Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, lots. It happens all the time, right? You prepare and you prepare and you prepare.
Yeah.
But stuff happens. And I got a long list, so I'll just pick 3. So we're paddling through northern Saskatchewan on the Churchill River system. And we see smoke starting to rise in the western horizon.
Okay.
And it's starting to come up. And we're paddling, and, you know, we've got folks who understand forest fires, and they're like, that's a long ways away, you know, we're going to be okay. That night, a big thunderstorm comes through, and now we have smoke to the north of us and smoke to the east of us.
Good boy.
By the end of that trip on the Churchill River, we were paddling through flames on both sides of the river, navigating whitewater, getting to our vehicles, and driving our trucks down a highway, and was burning on both sides.
Oh man.
Whoa.
So what happens in there is not only is there the physical danger of it, but there's the mental strain of a team trying to make decisions.
Oh yeah.
And to me, that's one of the most fascinating things, is because there's, in the Churchill River system, there's multiple channels and places that you can take. And, you know, life is just an accumulation of the consequences of your decisions, right? Like,
Deep.
Yeah.
Oh, let's go down that one. It seems like that's easier to paddle, but you're going right into the fire because the wind is coming that way.
That's a good one for the book, by the way.
Yeah, save that quote for the book. Yeah.
So that one was pretty. That was trying from a physical safety and a mental team aspect.
Was there people panicking like on the boats then? Like, oh man, we're in trouble? Or?
No, we typically on those remote trips, we have a core group of people who are very experienced.
Yeah.
We bring new people on, but we try to go with that kind of 80-20 thing where 80% of the folks are highly competent and experienced in that way. For those more remote ones, just for safety point of view.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
So that was one. Another one was we were on the Yukon or on the Yukon River, and we didn't have enough vacation to paddle the whole thing as a river trip. So we decided to enter a race, which is a nonstop race from Whitehorse to Dawson City on the Yukon River. And you pretty much paddle 24 hours. You take a 7-hour break. You paddle 24 hours. You take a 3-hour break, and then you paddle another 7, depending on the current.
Sheesh.
So you're paddling in the night, the day.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So what happened was we got so fatigued from just paddling constantly that we were starting to hallucinate. And so the other guy in the canoe, he was seeing his things along the side of the river, and I was seeing people and boats and stuff on the other side of the river, and we were starting to hallucinate, and we were having these discussions and arguments about what each of us were seeing, and then we started hallucinating the same things. And we were like, oh, this is getting serious. So you were physically tired, you were mentally barely even there anymore. Plus you still had to navigate the Yukon River in the middle of night. Now obviously we did it this time in 2004 because it has the longest hours of daylight.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it kind of ever went just slightly dark and twilight. There was forest fires there as well, but that was on the extreme end of mental fatigue.
Yeah. Wow.
And
that's incredible.
We had a video camera, and we'd see a black bear swimming along the shoreline, and I'd video it so that at the end of the trip we could confirm if he was there or not.
There was a bear or not. Yeah.
So at what point are you paddling and you're hallucinating, or are you just like, okay, maybe it's time for bed? Or
you only had 2 designated stops, so there was nowhere really to stop.
Really? Yeah.
But there was when you're paddling a tandem canoe, you take your technique from the racers, and so I was in the bow paddling away, and
that's the front of the boat.
Yeah,
I learned that today.
I learned that today. And my buddy's in the back, and so he would call the switch when you switch sides, and you'd paddle 3 or 4 strokes on one side. But when as you learned today in the course, you can do a correction stroke to keep it straight. But when you're in a race, you want to switch sides because you don't want to use any correction stroke because it slows you down. So what you do in that case is you switch sides to adjust the canoe going from side to side.
Every 4 strokes.
Every 4 strokes.
Oh, wow.
And you're paddling about 60 strokes per minute.
Oh,
so
that's
we're going down.
Wow.
And we do like our whiskey, so instead of hut, which is the call that you make, my short for Jack Daniels, my buddy would say Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And so I'm paddling along, and I'm having this beautiful dream about this place, and my partner in the back in the stern is yelling, Jack, Jack, Jack. And I'm still paddling on the same side, fast asleep, just paddling. Wow. And finally I'm like, in my dream comes this person yelling, Jack, Jack, in my dream, and I'm like, by this point I have no idea I'm paddling anymore. I'm just full asleep in the middle of dreamland. It's just Jack, Jack. They wake up and I'm on a river at night in the middle of nowhere. Some guy in the back of a canoe yelling Jack at me. It's like, oh shit, yeah, it's time to switch sides.
Wow.
Jeez. How'd you guys do in that race?
We came 6th out of the canoes and 9th overall out of 54 teams, and we've never done anything like that before in our life.
Holy cow.
That is cool.
But the thing that enabled us is we could read the river.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe some of the more experienced racers who didn't have the river experience and the northern Canadian river experience. So we were to pick all the high-speed channels and stay out of the slow zones and stuff. So
is that a pretty massive river then?
Yeah, it's Athabasca size.
Okay. Yeah.
Wild. And there's points in there where you're traveling at 19 kilometers an hour in a canoe. So the speed of nature is kind of quick on the Yukon.
And so how many days was that one then? That's like 3 days going?
It was 62 hours, so 3 days-ish of just straight paddling.
Crazy. How do you, do you have a training that you do?
Yeah. For every adventure that we do, like for the Nepal Everest trip, we basically through the summer of that year before we went in the fall, we would be hiking every weekend.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a couple of reasons for that as well. One, it takes away the discomfort and the risk around not being fit for the adventure.
Yeah.
And then it allows you to focus on the good things of it, like the people and the scenery and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So
on the Yukon River Quest, what we did for training is we did a few river trips together, and one was from Drayton Valley to Edmonton. And so it's 125 kilometers, that stretch.
Yeah.
And the canoe race was in June, so we were like in May. And in May, you don't have as much light, and the rivers are fairly low. So we thought we could do it all in one go. And around, it must have been 11 o'clock at night. It's pitch black, and we're running on gravel bars and, not knowing which channel to take. And we're like, this is getting unsafe. So, having pre-planned a little bit that we may not be able to do it all.
Yeah.
We had brought a tent. So we put up the tent, crashed for a couple hours, and then at first light of the morning we get going again. So we always train ahead of time for any adventure that we're doing, make sure that we have the skills to do it. And
did you do something like I want to stay awake for 24 hours then for that trip? Like, did you do a couple nights?
Well, we tried that Yukon or the North Saskatchewan one. You're staying
up
for 11 o'clock at night paddling in the dark, right? And both my partner and I work shift work in the mines, so you're working the night shifts.
Oh, right, okay.
And so you get to know how to tune your body to working throughout any hour of the day.
It's a useful skill to have for sure.
Yeah. Okay, give us one more. You said you had 3 stories for us.
Yeah. So when we did the Nahanni River.
Where's that one?
That one is in you start in Northwest Territories and the Yukon.
Yeah.
And so that one was a 16-day trip.
Wow.
And I don't know the kilometers on it. But what we found about that one was that the physical part was fine. We weren't putting on big kilometers every day, but the mental team strain was something that we found was tough. And each of us went through different periods of kind of thinking that we'd had enough, and that the strain on your brain was too much. And the one that comes to mind for me was we were 10 days in.
You guys in a Voyager canoe, or is this tandem
canoes?
Okay.
Yeah, we were 10 days in. It had been raining hard for like 2 days, so you're just soaking wet. You're cold. The clouds are low, and it was getting late at night or into the evening, and we needed to find a place to camp. And so we needed to find a spot, and we saw this island in the middle of the river, and we thought, okay, that's going to be our place. So as we approach, this black bear jumps off the island and swims across the river, and we get there, and it was just mosquito. It's thick. You could swat them with your hand. You couldn't breathe in without breathing in the mosquitoes. It's pouring rain, and the ground was all wet, and we were looking for a place to put the canoe. And my wife was not looking very happy. And so, we rallied around her and said, we just got to get through here. It's going to get better. And she goes, I think I'm a 10-day lady.
Yeah. 16's a bit
We
much.
still had 6 days to go.
Yeah.
But that was kind of our limit. Our kids were quite young at the time, and we just left them with the grandparents.
Yeah.
They were totally fine doing that. But you're missing your kids.
Oh, yeah.
You just chased a bear off where you're going to spend the night. Mosquitoes are driving you crazy. It's wet. You're cold. Yeah. She said, I think I'm a 10-day lady.
I was going to compare it a little bit because I like to run. I was going to compare it to hitting the running wall, where like if you run for a long time, you're just like you're telling yourself like mentally that you got to keep going, and then after you break that wall, it gets easier, right? But that's nothing compared to what you're going through out there with the mosquitoes and
it's the same. It's exactly the same, because what happens is I think your body is trying to tell you that I'm not sure why you're putting yourself through this amount of strain. You should probably stop. Mm-hmm. And so something in your brain's telling you to stop. And when you do a tough hike, it's like the first 30 minutes, your legs are just like lead. And then once you can get past that first 30 minutes, then you're good for a while.
Fired up again, yeah.
So we often hit those walls on our trips, both mentally and physically. But what I love about that is you hit that wall and you don't think you can go anymore. And your brain is telling you to stop. And, on the Yukon River Quest, we probably hit that like 5 or 6 times. And, on a bunch of them, you hit them multiple times. And it just feels like if I go any further, I'm not going to survive. And then your brain goes, well, you just can't stop. Like, you're in the middle of nowhere in a canoe. There's a forest fire beside you. You need to go. And then your brain switches, and that moment of after passing the wall is just like got all this power and energy and clarity. I just love that feeling of being able to break over that wall and what's on the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the rewards that come from that, the growth actually in people as a human beings when they break those walls.
Yeah. Because if you stopped at the first wall you ever encountered, you'd probably never walk. You'd still be crawling around in your diaper, going, standing. Every time I stand, I fall and hit the coffee table with my head. So I'm not going to pass that wall. So I'm just going to crawl around for the rest of my life.
So the wife make it through the next 6 days then?
Yeah, she did. The weather got better. The valley opened up. And it was much good after that. So that was, we were talking about the wall. That was her wall, right?
Yeah.
And once she got past that, there's this beautiful place on the other side of the wall where things are good for a while. So she never did say at the end, I'm a 16-day lady. She's always maintained she's about a 10-day lady.
Pretty adamant on that.
10 days on a canoe does seem like I think I could do 10. Oh man, I don't know.
But in 2008, she joined us for the David Thompson Brigade, and she did 3 weeks.
Yeah.
With my 14-year-old daughter. So
amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know if she's really a 10-day lady.
Okay, well, we're just sitting around the fire here, and we don't want to spend all night podcasting, but I do want to just ask, like, someone that wants to get into canoeing, you got any recommendations, like, just to get started?
Yeah, so I'd say hook up with a friend who's, got the skills.
Yeah.
Or take a course. The Paddle Canada is a fantastic organization to help people get into those kind of courses. Yeah. But each province as well has their own paddling associations. Paddle Alberta here they're all across the country, each province. So you just go online and you look that up. There's always places where you can learn those skills. Yeah. And in like Paddle Alberta, you can also sign up for different trips and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
Yep. And then there's canoe clubs. We started a canoe club in Fort McMurray in 2006. And so also another way is to join a canoe club. The canoe club in Calgary, and the Hinton Strokers back in the day here.
Yeah, the Hinton Strokers not a thing anymore.
No.
Oh.
So those canoe clubs are a great way to get out and be, that 80-20 that I talked about. 80% of them are going to be highly competent and help you out. But so take some training, join a club, find friends that like doing that. That's the best way to start.
And do your research.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering where you go to do your research. Like, do you have a specific spot that you look, or are you just looking up the area in general, maybe on Google and just
like mapping on rivers? You mean?
Yeah. Or like, is there an app of some kind that?
Yeah. So 30 years ago, even like just as the internet was kind of coming in, what you would do is you would contact somebody who paddled the river before. Mm-hmm. And so that was either through a phone call or, early email days, or you would read a book. Book on that river, and that's how you would do your research.
Okay.
Nowadays, there's forums, there's so many people posting about their trip. There's people doing podcasts about their trips. There's people doing books about it. So nowadays, to get the maps, the understanding of what the experience is going to be like, it's very, very easy these days, especially in Canada, for finding what kind of stuff you're in. And a lot of these forums, you can go on and say, hey, here's a kind of trip I want to do. There's going to be people all across Canada that are going to say, oh, these 15 destinations are going to be kind of a fit for what you're looking for. So nowadays it's so much easier to be able to get
Is
that
on like Reddit or
so there was one that was really popular for a while, Canadian Canoe Routes. I don't know if it's still active, but Paddle, the provincial associations is a good place to post. Paddle Canada is a good place to post. But there's also like All Trails, and there's a bunch of different places that now. Yeah. Another great one is the Canadian the trails that go across Canada.
The Trans-Canada?
Trans-Canada. A bunch of it is river as well.
Oh, sweet.
So they have river routes, especially to the north.
Yeah.
So I think you just got to type in Canada paddling whitewater or canoe circuit or whatever, and all kind of stuff's going to come up.
Cool.
It's, the great thing about people now sharing their experiences and doing what you're doing with your podcast is it really opens up information for people so that they can start to think about what they'd like to try.
Well, that's one thing about the podcast. We realize like every guest that comes on, a lot of it is like we had Beth on a couple episodes ago talking birding. And then, like someone talking, like Matt was on talking gold panning. It's like all these things, like the paddling and the birding, it's like they're all just excuses to get out to nature, like it's just there's so many like great examples of people, living their best life doing this kind of stuff, and you listen to it, it's inspiring. And your passion comes through, Darin. Like even just teaching today, we're like, oh yeah, Darin's like into paddling.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I've done it my whole life, and I love to see other people be able to learn that skill, and take your son out, George, like that, or you take friends out on a river or whatever. It just adds another dimension to our life of something that we learn, and new experiences and new relationships that we can form. So if I can be any part of helping that be a safer, more enjoyable experience, that's what gets me excited.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're excited for day 2 tomorrow. Planning not to flip the canoe tomorrow, but I am going to bring a few extra. Well,
it depends on what games we play.
Yeah.
You got a few more technical ones planned for tomorrow. So
perfect.
Yeah, just when you think, I mastered that part of the skill, then it just gets upped, and then it gets upped and upped. And
Christina's been writing down in her notebook tonight, okay, so draw, this is what we're going to do for the draw, and we're going to try to do the side shift.
Planning.
We're planning.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're not going to be, we're not trying, we are going to be the best canoe tomorrow, so you better step up your game, Jamie.
I'll try my best.
And as I mentioned, we've done this all over the world, exploring, and all over Canada. But one of the places I love to come the most to is around the Hinton area. Yeah. And I love coming here for the wilderness.
Yeah.
You can be fishing for lake trout at Rock Lake. You can be fishing for rainbow at Petite Lake. You can be random camping in the forest. You can have the great facilities that are available at William Switzer Provincial Park. You got the rivers here. You got the Athabasca, which is, at the right flow. It's actually a fairly, if you go with the right folks, a fairly safe one. You can be doing the technical ones like the Wild Hay and the McLeod. Just so much here. And we just love coming back here for all the hiking and times in nature and the the lake systems around here, and the interconnected of the lakes in William Provincial Park. Paddling up Jarvis Creek from Jarvis, from Greg Lake to the upper ones. Just love coming back here because I think this part of the world, because it's a little bit further from an airport, and it's not on a main route like you would do from Vancouver to Banff and Lake Louise and that. It's just this like little pocket of almost pristine wilderness that you can just get out and explore, right? And it's all here, whether you're into cross-country skiing, birding, or paddling, or hiking, or mountain biking. Just love this area for that. This is, to me, some of the nicest wilderness in Canada.
Well, I always say Hinton has the same amount of letters as heaven.
Yeah, that's right. Starts with the same letter too.
I remember you saying that on another podcast. Yeah, it's corny, but it's lines up. I like it. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Darin. This is great. You should be write a book for sure. Perhaps an inspirational speaker. You got. Your passion just shines through, and that's...
Got that zest, you know? Yeah.
I love it.
And that knowledge, that understanding of life, I think, most importantly.
You got a website? No website?
No website. I just used to post my stuff on Facebook.
Yeah.
Just to share with others what kind of stuff's out there in the world to go and see, and if you inspire one person to go to a location that they hadn't been before, then to me that's a win, and makes me feel good, especially when you hear back from people's experience. And hey, I wasn't going to do that, but it happened on the Nahanni. People I didn't even know read my report on the Nahanni and did the trip. And then sent me a letter after saying it was one of our best best experiences. And
that's rewarding.
Yeah.
That's something for the book, maybe.
Yeah.
Testimonial.
Exactly. Okay, well, we're excited for canoeing tomorrow. Darin, thanks so much. This is great. Sitting around the fire is a perfect way to do a podcast. Jamie, thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Darin. Yeah, really appreciate it. The course is looking forward to passing with flying colors, hopefully.
Right, yeah. Might have to slip Darin a 20 or something to get the certificate, but if you guys are listening to this episode, wherever you're listening, if it's Spotify or Apple, leave us a review. That helps out. Or send us an email to wildernesswave@outlook.com. And we have some really interesting guests lined up for the next couple. So tune back in. Thanks, Darin. Thanks, Jamie. For the next episode, stay wild.
Wilderness Wavelength.